everyone, I'm Richie and welcome to Helix Cloud Games, and this is SideQuest, the show where we take a step off the critical path and explore more what the video game world has to offer. On this week's show, I'm joined by the host of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, Mr. Chris.
Mic check. Chris is here.
He is indeed. And today we're going to be talking about Stadia's public presence. It's going to be a fun one. But first, a quick bit of housekeeping. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon for notifications when all of our great shows go live, such as the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Every single Monday, we bring you the weekly Stadia news on YouTube and on podcast services. Every Thursday, we have a community live stream when my internet holds up. And if not, we push it to a Friday, like it did with my first look at Child of Light. Also, if you want to join this conversation even further, have a chat about games and other things with like-minded people, or write in about topics you want us to discuss, you can do in our Discord. There's a link in the description below. So, Chris.
So, Richie.
Right, I'm just going to call this one out straight away. The last time Stadia did like a press conference-y style event was December 2020. So, by the
time this goes on,
by the time this goes live, for non-members, that will be an entire year. And I didn't mention it, but you can get the show early if you're a member for as little as 99p. Back to the topic. It'll be a whole year since Stadia last did a press conference. So whether it's their own in-house one or appearing at something like an E3, it's a year of silence, basically. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's, right, okay, let's think. Where do we start with this, Richie? Because,
it's a hard one to start.
So, pre-show, for those who don't know, we always try and gather a couple of bits of information so we've got some actual, evidence and such. And digging back through Stadia's YouTube channel, and we were talking about, how we want to broach this subject. Because, again, we want to talk positively about these topics and shine light on them when it's required. And you said just before we start recording, Richie, we'll start by just breaking down all the events they've done this year. And I had to stop you and say, no, the dates are not for this year, Richie, not for 2021. They are for 2020, just to add that bit of extra gravitas to why we need to talk about it a little bit in a topical side quest.
That kind of sums it up quite nicely, to be honest. I slipped up and went, we'll go through the events that have been at this year, then we'll talk about what they're going for. And it's like, well, we actually can't, because then we'll just be doing the second half of the show only.
Yeah, and the reason it actually worked, the reason I pulled this topic out for this week is because you're totally right. If you're listening as a member, it's ahead of time. It's acceptable, I guess. However, if you're listening to this on free feeds when it drops on YouTube and podcast services, it is to the day, 3rd of December, when they hosted the Stadia Live Hangout event with Austin Creed and Katie Wilson, and they played some Outcasters and Super Bomberman, showing off crowd choice and crowd play. One whole year, Richie. We've done 52 podcast episodes in that time, many live streams, raised £1,000 for charity, played with the Stadia community out there. We've seen it grow, we've seen new games come. However, from the Stadia communications team, for one whole year, besides blogs and a little few things here and there, no event, no public appearance. Phil Harrison hasn't been seen. He wasn't at the Hangout event. I don't think he was at the Good Stuff event either, so it must be a connect back in the summer 2020 since we saw him in person.
I'd argue Phil Harrison doesn't necessarily need to be present himself.
I agree,
if Stadia are present. Because he's the head of Stadia. That doesn't necessarily mean you're the right guy to get on stage and talk about it to the press.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's a different skill set.
We haven't seen Jeff Bezos get up for Amazon Luna and say here we go.
Exactly, it's that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be Phil. But an entire year. I'm just going to actually put out, before going further, part of a disclaimer. We're recording this on the 27th of November. It goes live for members probably today, maybe if not tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it will be published on the 3rd of December. And the reason I bring that up is because they technically have 6 days between recording and publishing, where I can guarantee Thursday they'll do a like Stadia Connect just to screw with me.
I mean, Richie, I would take this episode of SideQuest to be just washed away.
Yeah.
No one needs to talk about it. We won't talk about it. And
I'll
our
still
members
publish it.
will listen to it. Oh, by all means, we'll still publish it. But I would quite happily take the hit if it meant we got any kind of public-facing communication on a bigger scale than a blog post or a tweet.
Yeah.
It's been a year.
I don't
it's 365 days. Only Mafia has gone longer than that.
See, for this conversation, I don't count the blog posts at all, because the blog posts are for people who are already in the ecosystem. They're not. That's not the blog posts. There might be some members of the video game journalists, press association, whatever they want to call themselves, who read the Stadia blog posts. They're certainly not writing about them.
Yeah.
But I take that as this is Stadia telling people who are already in the ecosystem, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Not talking to the press. And I think this topics we're talking about today is very much that in front of the press, the mass market stuff.
Yeah, it's the conversation, I guess, should be around, rather than saying like what they haven't done, it should be like the perception of these events and what they do for your brand. And I think the best way I look at this in whole is just to see what everyone else is doing. And we've said before, to be part of this industry, to be in these communications, and for the journalists and the websites to actually take note. I remember when these events were going on, content creators, streamers, video game journalists would live stream and react to the Stadia events. Yes, they'd make fun of them.
We do
yes,
it for things like Ubisoft Connects.
But what's happened is the well has dried up to a point where if you've got no coverage, there's no one talking about it other than the kind of inner Stadia content creator circle, which is awesome as all of us are out there, and we do our absolute best. We can't talk about what doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it really pains me that like we haven't had a chance to get our hands on Amazon Luna yet. It's still in beta. It's still in the States. I and yourself, Richie, we watch a lot of kind of funny content. Greg Miller and the team over there, they've done
former IGN
members, yeah, and I watch IGN content on their podcasts as well. They've done about 3 Amazon Luna sponsored streams in the last few months. And when they play, they have a laugh. They play multiple games. They use the couch play, and they never once bring up the fact that it's cloud gaming because it works. But they talk about it positively, and so I mean, they still don't talk about it on their other shows. It's clearly a paid sponsorship, but people are watching in their thousands. And if Stadia have gone an entire year with no events, nothing, no Austin Creed, no Katie Wilson. Who's creating the hype? Who's creating the conversation?
That's it. The thing is, video games is a weird industry because while it is very much a business, you're selling a product. It's also a huge passion for the people, the consumers on the consumer end. So it's very different. I mean, tech is passionate for a lot of people. Like me and you are quite passionate about tech, but it's a different level of passion. I think it's a different styles. Like things like E3. Gamescons, events like that. These are designed for the journalists to go to get hands on, so they can write their reviews, report on what's going on, what we're going to expect. It's like that's what it's designed for. But there's very much all the fans and at least the hardcore fans suddenly got E3. What's happening? You get excited. You get excited by what's coming to whatever platform you're invested in. And
you can't
that's something that's been sorely lacked from Stadia over the last year. It's like I've been saying for a while now, I want something from the Stadia team to get me excited about the platform, because the platform's good, it works, they've got some cool features and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, but then they never tell you what's coming up until it's out. Mm-hmm. So then you don't get the hype cycle for anything coming to Stadia because you don't know about anything.
That's kind of the problem, because we're sat here recording an episode of our SideQuest show where we do a deeper dive on topics, and rather than doing a deep dive on a Connect or an event or what games are maybe we could have done, today's show could have literally been about top 10 most anticipated games for 2022. We could have sat here and went, what are you looking forward to? Do you think we'll get any surprises? And instead we're looking back.
There isn't a list of expected games for 2022. At the moment,
so instead,
I can't do that show.
Yeah, so we're looking back and going, like, what announcements we got? So July 2020 was the last Stadia Connect we got, over a year ago. And at that Connect, they announced Click to Play. Terrific. It works fantastically. They don't promote it enough, but it works. Mafia Trilogy. Richie, I haven't done it in a while. Yeah. We got Mafia 3, and everyone thought that would shut me up. But because of this particular subject, at that particular Connect, they say, we're looking forward to working with 2K in bringing you not only Mafia Original Remake, but 2 and 3 Definitive Edition. We've had 3. Great. That still means from July 2020, we haven't got Mafia 1 Definitive Edition or the 2 Remake one. So that means it's been 563 days since it was teased on Twitter and 428 days since it was all released on other platforms. Just to give you a little brief update there, I've still got the countdown on my phone.
Yeah.
Because we're still missing 2 of the 3. That was announced in July 2020, Richie. We're about to go into 2022. So, in amongst that, Orcs Must Die 3 came and went. It's got DLC.
And this would be different if these were new games and, like, they hadn't come out on other platforms. It's because they have come out on other platforms. It's like,
I mean, the Mafia,
the game is done. It's not like a typical reveal like at an E3 where things like Cyberpunk, I think, was initially teased all the way back to something like 2014.
Oh, it's E3.
Let us know in the comments where it's like, okay, we're excited for this game, and when is it going to come? This is a game that's done. Like,
well, let's remember Mafia. Let's take it back to July 2020 when it was announced. It was scheduled to come out on other platforms that September. So when we watched that Connect, it was July. Oh, we've only got a few months until it releases in September. Here we are, November 2021, and it's still 2 of the 3 games are not out. But we digress, of course. They announced Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, amazing Game of the Year winning title. Outriders came out this year, having a resurgence now because of the patches. Yeah. Great. They also announced their relationships with Harmonix, which we touched on this week's podcast. If you've not checked it out, they're gone. Uppercut Games, which we saw Submerged Hidden Depths. Supermassive Games still. The people who made doing the Man of Medan stuff, they made Until Dawn on PlayStation, the horror franchise games. Not had a peep from them since July 2020. And I quote from Khaled Abdel Rahman.
I think Supermassive might have been Little Nightmares.
No. That's
it's on Supermassive's website. Little Nightmares 2 is on Supermassive's website.
Well, surely that's not an announcement working with them if it's on all platforms. That's
also, actually, the website doesn't list it being on Stadia.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's a worthy announcement if that's the case. But yeah, Supermassive. But then, a quote from that guy. Later this year, we'll be sharing more about what these talented studios are working on. Later this year. This was from July 2020. We've heard nothing from Harmonix. We've heard nothing from Supermassive. Supermassive is continuing to work on the Man of Medan stuff and Last Hope Dark Horror Pictures anthology. Harmonix have now been bought by Epic Games, so they might be gone completely.
Yeah.
Later this year. Or maybe you should have said later next year, because here we are later next year and we've not heard a thing. And that was the last event. The last notable Connect. We got a good stuff event. Great. We got 3 5-minute videos over 3 days. We got demos off the back of it. We won't go into that one right here. But I don't know.
It's hard to really like. So I think what we're doing here is really with this episode is kind of putting into context our frustrations with, because we bring up all the time about the communication being poor. This is the stuff we're talking about. It's like, it's not necessarily about Google Stadia talking to us. It's about them just talking to the world. Like, your hobbyist company, that's what you do. You're producing things that for people indulging in the hobbies. People want to be excited by that sort of stuff. They want to know what's coming. A year of silence. It's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. Like, I mean, if they'd only turned up at E3, fine. That's fine, yeah. But
if you had a Connect in the summer, just one this year. We had 3 in 2020.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. Sorry, we had 2 in 2020.
But and this is why I think you see a lot of people like kind of give up on the platform, because when there's the whole thing where it's not at a point where every AAA title is going to come day and day. Actually, I'm not even going to go AAA title. I'm going to say, noteworthy title. Because I think someone on last week's SideQuest arguably actually put a very good point in there that it's not just about the AAAs, it's about the titles that really get people like excited for stuff. I'm thinking, what was the one?
Richie, just this again.
Yeah.
SpongeBob, we don't know. Destroy All Humans 2, we don't know. The annualized sports franchises, we don't know. Football Manager, we don't know. Like, the list goes on. Like, that's the reality. And they're not classed as AAA. They're just
and press conferences come and go. And you go, there's the Xbox logo, there's the PlayStation logo, there's the Nintendo's logo, there's the Steam logo. Luna's not fully out, so they do get a bit of a pass in that. Mm-hmm. And you just don't know. So, like, people are you're just in that perpetual state of don't know what's coming. So it's hard to remain faith.
It all adds up because as of like, I mean, we will recap because we'll do a kind of year in review. We'll look at Game of the Year as we tick into December. But the reality is, if you were to reflect on this year, the only announcement we've had, like the only public announcement we've had, was the closure of the games studio, the first party game studios. Then we've had nothing. We had their anniversary stream, happy birthday, and that. But you're totally right. We've had white labeling news. We've had nothing from Phil.
Yeah. And if anything, I'd argue white labeling puts more doubts in people's minds.
Yeah, about where they're going. So
especially when there's no context around it. When it's just like AT&T announced Batman Arkham, was it Arkham Knight?
Yeah.
Is now you can get that if you're an AT&T customer running on Stadia hardware. Then there's nothing from the Google Stadia side going to provide a bit of context going, yes, we are working with white labeling, however, we are still supporting the platform.
Yeah. They could have even said, we're delighted to announce Stadia is being used to run Arkham Knight. And that could, like, I didn't see any news websites pick up on the Arkham Knight story by like one or two. I didn't see any any influencers talk about Arkham, who are massive Batman fans as well. Not even mention that fact that you can play it through click to play on a website.
It's a story that's only relevant if you use Google Stadia or you're with AT&T. Yeah,
true.
So, and where UK focused, AT&T isn't over here. So you're just down to, for a lot of our circles, just the Stadia focused people.
So, Richie, to turn this narrative, I guess, which someone has to do it. Looking ahead, we've looked back, we've reflected. Looking ahead, then we have. I guess the first point of call is going to be the Game Awards in 2 weeks' time.
Yes, the Game Awards in like 2 weeks' time.
Phil Harrison is on the jury.
He is. That still doesn't fill me with optimism about a Stadia presence.
Oh, same here. I just think he's doing his.
When it comes to Game Awards, what I would take as sufficient presence is Stadia's logo appearing on games, because this isn't the Game Awards is a press conference in the end of the day.
Oh yeah, it's more
with with an award ceremony tacked on between the game trailers. But it's not a single platform specific or a single publisher specific event. So what we're looking for, this is a good place for Stadia to be, because they don't have a first party studios anymore, is when a new game, a game that is noteworthy, that's going to get people excited, whether it's an indie, AA, AAA, whatever it is. When that game comes out and it's not platform exclusive, this is the good place to have your logos.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
If we see some Elden Ring action at the Game Awards or whatever Kojima's up to.
Because then what happens is when IGN do their write-up, when things like GameSpot, Eurogamer, all these organisations that do write-ups and everything, all the things to see at the Game Awards, go, oh, there's a new Metal Gear Solid 6 coming to PlayStation and Xbox and Switch and Stadia. And your name's in that article, and people will read it. Mm-hmm. And then people go, oh, Stadia's still a thing. And then, they read another article, there's your name. And then all you've had to do is just be open that these games are coming to your platforms. Like, this is why I get frustrated about the shadow drops. Like, on top of I think it's terrible for consumers. I know some people do get excited when suddenly a game comes out, all of a sudden, like, oh my god, this cool game's just suddenly come out of nowhere. And I've been like that in the past, but when it's every single game gets that treatment, you can't plan your purchases.
Yeah, shadow drops are cool when it's like maybe an older game you weren't expecting. It's like, oh, I didn't know that was coming to the platform. But when it's stuff that's been announced by developers elsewhere and they've had a 6-month build-up of trailers and dev conversations and concept art and roadmap announcements, and people have maybe gone back to older entries and played them, and like just nostalgia builds or fanfare builds up. Meanwhile, we have to wait till maybe the day of, like Battlefield.
Yeah,
not a. I know obviously Battlefield's not getting the best plaudits it would have wanted. GTA remaster, like there's so many titles
that didn't land well, but
again, it was titles that everyone else was talking. Like I scrolled through my social feed, and that's all I saw was GTA remaster conversation. Oh, I mean, yes, people are mocking it, but you know what? They're playing it. They're talking about it. They're involved in the world of gaming, and yet
until the point it came out, there was a lot of hype behind it, a lot of interest.
I'd argue there still is. It's still GTA.
That game not performing well isn't a reflection on Sony or Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one's going to Sony and go, oh my god, I can't believe this game's running terribly on you. They're going to Rockstar and going, what the hell, guys? Like, did you not test this?
Might have ran really well on Stadia, like Cyberpunk did.
I suspect they would have had the same problems, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely will have done. But yeah, so Game Awards, that's the first point of call to change the narrative.
I don't think they'll be there. I'm not expecting the presence because that's what this year has been about.
Which is just, again, if we rewound the clock, Richie, back to like episode 10 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, you, me, and Tom sat there in all of our freshman days and trying to learn the ropes of doing podcast content creation. We're so bright-eyed and optimistic.
We're sitting even now at episode 10. We're starting in September, so it might have been close.
Yeah. And if you said in 2 years' time, Stadia will have had an E3 press conference, they're at the Game Awards, they've had some Game of the Year award-winning titles, you're getting FIFA day and date, you're getting Battlefield, you went, yeah, okay, I would expect that after 2 years on the market. And instead we're sat here saying they haven't told us anything in over 365 days. They've been at no big press events this year. They've stopped doing their own events. And now they've even white label.
They're pushing stuff out white label, and they're walking back on how often they release the blog posts.
Oh, and they close the studios.
Yeah.
If you'd have told us...
I think that I don't really want to bring that one into the discussion because everyone brings it up. And I think this was a change of strategy when they realised building first-party studios up from the ground up and first-party titles is going to insanely expensive to get going. There's no guarantee it'll come out well, and actually they're better off growing the platform in other ways first.
Yeah, which we get the business decisions, but tell us about whatever the future decisions are. It goes back to, Richie... Yeah, because we don't need to go into, because let's face it, all the big press events for the next year or so. E3 2022, will they be there?
No.
My guess would be that they might be at GDC to tell people about 2 years of development in the cloud. And I mean, they weren't at their own Google I/O event this year, bar I think a controller in the shop in New York.
That's an event. That's a weird one, actually, not being at their own I/O event, because it's an event as a consumer and a fan of the platform. I don't care about them being there, but I think for the optics of it, it's like, well, this is a Google event. This should be one of the arms of your business that you're trying to grow. Yeah. Why the hell aren't you there?
Well, it's like Sony putting Spider-Man adverts at the end of a PlayStation ad or a PS5 controller promo at the end of a Spider-Man advert. It's synchronicity across your brands.
It'd be like, imagine if Sony did like their organisation-wide event, so they're talking everything from the TVs to the phones, and then just for some reason decides, but we're not going to let the camera guys in on this.
Yeah.
It'd be weird. Like, but that's the one I care about their presence the least, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it's their own event, and I almost see Stadia is different to the rest of Google in some rest of Google in some ways, because of it is a different marketplace, because it's more of a passion, it's a hobby, it's a passion. Tech isn't always everyone who's into games, it's because it's a hobby. Everyone who's into TVs or phones, it's not necessarily a hobby.
Yeah.
Or an interest.
But yeah, what else is there? I mean, the reason I kind of wanted them to be there at some of these events is because I was totally, I'm sure you and Tom are down for it as well, is like to go to one of them.
Yeah.
Like if Gamescom was on in Germany and Stadia were like telling us, oh, we're going to have a presence at Gamescom, I'd be straight on to you and Tom saying, can we get tickets to Germany?
Well,
and go for the weekend or something and report on Stadia and do something.
In the UK, we've got EGX, which is actually scheduled twice next year. March in Birmingham and September in London. I would love us to be going to Birmingham in March, but I don't to cover Stadia there. I mean, we could talk about going anyway, but actually we've got quite a busy year next year anyway with stuff. So like, but like in personal lives, but I just don't expect Stadia to be there. I don't expect to see Stadia at E3. Again, you don't have to be at E3. Sony wasn't at E3.
True.
But Sony have also got their State of Plays, which they bring out couple of times a year. And they've got that presence. Sony,
and every news website covers them on a granular level as well. That's the big difference.
Sony established enough in the industry that they don't need to rely on third-party events to get their message across. And if Sony have a quiet year, they've got a legacy of bringing out amazing games and all sorts of cool stuff to the platform that people will give them a bit of a pass. Google doesn't have that in gaming. Yeah. They haven't earned it. Nintendo have earned it. Microsoft have earned it. Sony have earned it. Google hasn't earned it. Amazon hasn't earned it. Nvidia's a weird one because they have been in the gaming space for a long time as a hardware provider. But
so there's no really way to go other than like what do you want to see in 2022?
Then it needs to be different. It needs to be more 2019 than it was 2021. 2019 we got the announcement of GDC, we had 2 Kinects, and then going into 2020 we had another 2 Kinects and the Good Stuff event, which is kind of a Kinect split over 3 days.
Yeah, because we know there's a few like little intricacies as well, because I know one of the ones we talk about is like communication and roadmap, and at the which event was it? At the April Stadia Connect, Phil Harrison said he announced the EA 5 game partnership, and that's ended now, and we know they don't like talking to us, but they announced that, so I feel like we need an update on relationships.
Their lack of talking is not necessarily talking to us, it's just lack of talking full stop is one of the biggest things that's harming the platform. And I'm sure there's people at Google Stadia right now who are as frustrated as me and you about this stuff.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's obvious. In order to get more people into the platform, you need to give people a reason to go to the platform. And you can't rely on your third-party publishers to do that. Ubisoft don't care about Stadia. They'll only put their games on Stadia while they think it's profitable. And they're not going to pay for your marketing.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, Ubisoft are playing the long game to a point where if Stadia folded, Ubisoft would still just use the tech as a white label service for Ubisoft Plus, and they'd be fine. Arguably, they'd be in a better place than Stadia because they've got an awesome catalogue of games, and they'll add more to it. I guarantee you, Ubisoft will probably do more work to get games on the platform than they do themselves. But it's interesting because like we've got to imagine next year Amazon Luna's going to come out swinging. Surely.
Honestly, I'm half expecting Game Awards, Amazon Luna finally comes out with beta next year, an announcement.
Yeah.
Or either Game Awards or E3.
Yeah, and
depending what their timeline's looking like.
And they joked about it. New World, it's up for a nomination at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
It's not on Luna, but it's an Amazon Studios title that's up for a nomination.
You know what I think? If I'm Luna, what I'd be targeting right now is we're going to be present at the Game Awards a bit. Doesn't have to be a lot, but we're going to go. Yeah, we're coming out of beta, and we're going to be launching worldwide in 2022. Check out us out at E3 for more details.
Yeah.
Then you bought yourself. Then they bought themselves 6 months. E3 comes round, you get all the details. And in that interim 6 months, you can start pushing more and more, get the hype up for the platform.
Yeah. To give a bit of context for like the sizes as well, because again, we haven't had a chance to play Luna yet. It's still not available in the UK. To go off like just social followings, Stadia's Twitter account is 256,000 followers. Okay,
it's
so
quite
after
low.
2 years, they've garnered 256,000. Amazon Luna. Do you want to guess, Richie?
500,000.
Nope. 16.1.
Who's the 0.1?
I don't know.
16.1 people. It's not many.
Okay.
Yes.
16,000. That's it. Which just shows you how little, like, just by a social media comparison. So, to wrap things up, I guess, I know everyone gives them shit, but that's because they've not done anything. They've not moved for a year. People are poking Stadia with a stick, going, do something. Do something. In this year, they need to. If they have another year, like 2020, you might as well just shut up shop, because if you're not bothering, why should anyone else bother? No one owes you anything. You have billions in the bank. Spend some of that damn money and invest in your business. Otherwise, you're a terrible business if you don't invest.
I don't know if 2022 goes the way this year goes. I don't know we will be sat here next year talking about Stadia. We might be talking about Luna. We might be talking about GeForce Now. We might be talking about Sony.
I mean, if we've got nothing to talk about,
that's it. It's like, but for me, if I'm them, my target for Stadia for next year is one event a quarter, with a big one around the time of E3.
Yeah.
So the others can be maybe a 20-minute, 30-minute thing, and you got an hour big event at E3. So you get one out first week in the first couple of weeks of January, or in January, and then 3 months later in April, bang again. E3's in July. I think is E3 in July. I have the dates written down. E3's in June. In June, so you can do June. So you a bit early.
And you know what? You'll have your Ubisoft press conferences in the middle. Their forwards will be there as well for you to have a little boost in between your own. Yeah. But, I think.
Although actually, ideally, I would turn the blog post into a YouTube video and bring out a 5-minute video every bloody week.
Yeah.
You just take the information that's in the blog post, read it to a camera, put the trailers up like Chris does on the Sound Stadia podcast.
Like, could you imagine just, hey Stadians, this week we're getting some exciting news out for you. We've got this new game, new DLC for this, bang, a couple of trailers, a couple of fancy animations. That's all your news it is for this week. Have a great week playing games. See you in the cloud.
And then, I know you're doubling up on the information, but a YouTube video is a lot more present than a blog post.
You can share it. It can be watched without audio.
Other organisations are more likely to watch that video rather than digging into your Twitter if they're not that invested in your platform.
If they miss a story, a journalist will equally watch a YouTube video to gather information. Like, they all leech off each other. But for me, it's just like 2021 needs to be direction, a roadmap. You need a roadmap. Like stop fucking around, Stadia. Get a roadmap out. Tell us what the plan is, because it's just not good enough.
Come out in January and tell us what games we can expect in the first 6 months of the year, and come out in June and tell us what we're going to expect in the back end of the year.
Games.
What games? Because you've talked about, we've got deals for over 100, 200 games. Like, well, tell us what they are.
Yeah, you know what they are. The developers know they are. They've signed a contract to put the game on your platform. Talk about it. Like every other games company does. Yeah. Talk about it. Brag about it, in fact, if you've got some winners in there. But all in all, pulling it all together, games and communication, I think, are just the two easiest things you can get for 2020. If we end up next year just sat there going, we've got an awesome list of games, and we got communicated with more about what the plan is. Yeah. I think, as a consumer, I'll be happy with that.
I said it before. I said by now Google Stadia should have been hitting all the big notable titles day and date. I think they have to do it next year, otherwise the platform is literally dead. Because this time next year we'll be entering their third year, fourth year.
Yep.
And if there isn't significant progress in the next 12 months,
there's There can't be titles akin to Guardians of the Galaxy slipping through the net next year.
No, has to be
that
all of them.
That cannot happen.
If it's not an exclusive, it needs to be on your platform. That's what
Yeah.
your target needs to be by the end of next year.
Yeah. Because remember, you have the hundreds of millions you would have invested in your first party. You're not doing that now.
Yeah.
So reach out to all these devs, publishers, and say, right, how much is it going to cost to get these games across?
Yeah. You've had a 2-year run up. Now it's time to deliver.
Yeah. And even worse if Luna start getting them.
We've known lots of content creators who've just moved on from the platform entirely because they just lost faith.
You got nothing to create. If you ain't got the content, you can't create. Yeah. And all games are great, but they don't get the clicks, the views, the shares that a brand new day and date AAA title does. That's fact. Yeah, well, it just doesn't.
I still think there is a future for Google Stadia, and the biggest thing that's letting it down at the moment, I strongly think, is Google themselves. Well, their approach. It always comes back to that John Justice interview for me. Is like when he said they've decided to start playing the cards close to the chest. I was like, that's literally the wrong thing. That's the wrong move.
Yeah, you want to show your hand.
But anyway, that's all we have time for this
week. Yeah. Thanks for joining us for your therapeutic Stadia rant session.
Want to make this positive. We did try to find the positives, but they just weren't there.
Again, I would have rather sat here and spoke about new games and new features and maybe new controllers we're getting, and we've got rid of the Premier Edition and there's a brand new one out for this Christmas. It's called the Chromecast Package something, but we can't. Again, you need content to create.
You know what? I do actually want to do a top 20 expected games for 2022, but I've got a feeling we're going to go, and there's this game coming. Do you think it'll come to Stadia? Is it Ubisoft? No. So just heads up for that episode. That's probably what it's going to be like. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you've liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon. Let us know what your thoughts are over the last year of absence from them, and what you would really like to see from them next year in the comments below. Make sure you check out the podcast, check out our live streams, join our Discord server if you want to chat to more people, or if you've got an idea for a topic, write it in. With that, I've been Richie.
I've been Chris for 2021.
We've been Helix Cloud Games. Quest completed.